Remember just this last year, heck, earlier this year, when image generation AI systems would create pictures that looked more or less real, but the words were all jumbled up, right? Like you'd tell an AI system, hey, make me a can of Coke on a table, a picture of it, and it would create a picture that would look so good. It would look like a can of Coke on a table, but the letters on the can of Coke would look like it just went through a strange little smashing machine and it wasn't quite the right letters and it was spelled wrong. Those days are gone. And it's really, really creepy. We now have AI models which can convincingly replicate a person's handwriting, their distinctive handwriting styles, like almost imperceptibly, like it's just perfect. And it is just as creepy as it sounds. What happened here? An individual used an AI system to replicate J.R.R. Tolkien's handwriting. He fed it in a whole, because we have a ton of notes of J.R.R. Tolkien in his handwriting that have been scanned in, right? We've got a huge archive of those. Well, a person fed it into an AI model. Here, I'm going to bring up a picture here so you can see it for those of you watching the video version. I'm also going to link to this. There's an Ars Technica article that is worth reading on this. It's crazy and it's creepy and it's going to make your head explode, but it's worth reading. So I'll link to it here. But what the person did is he fed all of this in to an AI model in a system called replicate.com, which lets you run different sorts of AI training and LoRa systems. And he even has a specific link here where you can feed specifically handwritten notes such as signatures and post-it notes on fridges and what have you into this system to generate new handwriting algorithms so you can pretend to handwrite like someone else. It's absolutely creepy, and the results are pretty gosh darn good. Here's an AI generated image of JRR Tolkien that says, "Dear Jeff Bezos, your Lord of the Rings series sucks. It's only about the money, JRR Tolkien." But the thing to focus on here is that the handwriting is pretty gosh darn good. Here's a hello world JRR, and it looks pretty gosh darn good. And what's crazy to me is how good this looks, and we're still early days. And this is really, really convincing. Like, I mean, if it weren't for, like, here's one that just says The Lord of the Rings, JRR. And the handwriting, yeah, you could convince me that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote that. That you could convince me of that if I didn't know it in context of this being an article about AI generated handwriting, I would think that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote that. And so the person who came up with all this, he wrote a tutorial about it. Posted it up on Reddit. Here, everyone, now you can go and pretend and generate handwriting in the style of anyone you want, as long as you have a couple samples of their handwriting. Now, very quickly, that individual took it down because there are some obvious implications there. This could be used problematically. Well, Benj Edwards. Now, Benj Edwards is a tech journalist. In fact, one of the better tech journalists out there. He focuses a lot on computer history and the like. Truly does a phenomenal job. And just to give you a little context, Benj Edwards runs vintagecomputing.com and is the guy who started the Prodigy Preservation Project, which is something most people don't really know about, but it is an effort to reverse engineer the Prodigy online service that was popular in the 80s, but has been long since dead. And you can go and check it out, and you can actually kind of relive what it was like to use at least parts of the Prodigy online service nowadays, which I think is incredibly cool. Like I like that very, very much. Well, what Benj Edwards did is he took that tutorial and he took a series of handwritten notes from his father. Now, his father had long since passed away, many, many years back. And he wanted to see if he could train this AI model to replicate the handwriting of his deceased father. And he had wild success with it. And the examples that Benj Edwards created of the handwriting of his deceased father are really good and really, really creepy. I'm going to show you a few pictures here because it is crazy. Here's one that says, "Through AI, part of me can live forever, Dad." Or the top one, "Guess who's back? Dad," which is incredibly creepy. I mean, oh my heavens! There's so many horror movies that start this way. He created a bunch of very funny pictures as well, you know, in his dad's handwriting. Here's a large sign, and here's one that says "Daddy-O Shack," and here's Pokemon stats, Apple II forever, welcome to the cultural singularity. Like he created a bunch of images using his dad's handwriting to test it out. And the handwriting, if we really focus on the handwriting part of it, it looks great. It looks like a real person's handwriting. And what's really interesting here is it's not a font, right? We're not talking about a simple font here. This is an AI system that's trained on the handwriting, which really what that means is every letter is different. Right? So it learns how to write, let's say, the letter E. Well, in the example on the screen right now, if you're watching the video version, for those of you on the audio podcast, sorry, you're missing out. But it says there's a little cat reaching towards a ring and says, "Why shouldn't I keep it?" So in the word "keep" there, look at the letters E, the letter E's. There's two E's right next to each other, and they're similar, but they're not identical. You can see how they would have been written by the same person. You can see how they're in the same handwriting style, but they're not identical. They're not. This is not a font. This is not a bitmap or vector image font. This is actual unique and individual letters, each being written one at a time by AI in the style of the person that it's trained on, which is absolutely fascinating. Now he chose his dad's handwriting, in part because he loved his dad's handwriting, right? And I gotta say his dad has kind of fun handwriting. His dad has handwriting like so many engineers that I know, right? Like architectural and electrical drafting and engineers, they tend to write all in uppercase and they tend to have a distinctive handwriting style, and he certainly does. So it was a fun handwriting example to test this on. Well, here's what's really interesting. Let me see if I can bring up a picture of the service here. All right. So what's fascinating to me here is this: the cost of doing this, the barrier to entry for creating a brand new handwriting model for a new person is like $2. Using the service Replicate, if you go to replicate.com and you know what to do, it can cost between $2 and $4 to train this cloud-based AI system to create and understand that distinctive handwriting style. And then if you want to create images in the cloud using that service, it usually costs between 2 and 3 cents per image generated, excuse me. That's crazy cheap. It's a crazy low investment. The barrier to entry here is almost nil. I mean, if you can get your hands on handwriting examples, a significant enough portion of handwriting examples, which are not that significant. I mean, you need more than just, say, a couple of words scrawled down on a piece of paper. But if you can get a page or two of text from someone, you can create an AI-based handwriting model of that person for a couple dollars, and then fake their signature, fake words written by them, fake text by them that looks incredibly convincing, like very, very real looking, for pennies. And of course you can download it and run it locally as well. Like if you got a nice beefy NVIDIA GPU, you can run all these models locally and it doesn't even have to be in the cloud. But you can do it in the cloud for pennies and dollars if all you've got is a Chromebook. Or literally, you could have an Android phone, take some pictures, upload it to this model, and from your Android phone, pretend to be someone else, but create the handwriting of someone else. The implications here are rather distinct. Let me see. It's very, very simple. Like, he created more examples here that honestly kind of freak me out a little bit. Like, he has in his dad's handwriting written down, "Death is but a doorway, time is but a window, I'll be back." I don't know that I want my deceased father writing me notes that say these sorts of things. But again, I'm not I'm not Benj Edwards. I'm not his father. Everyone has their own particular sense of humor, their own particular style. I'm not going to fault Benj Edwards for saying this. Here's another one where he shows how he put in the prompt saying, "Hey, create a paper note that reads, 'Hi, Benj, it's Dad.'" And it does. It creates one that says, "Hi, Benj, it's Dad." And other than, looking at some of the image where it does, the image of the paper itself doesn't 100% looks real. It's like 99% real, but it's just a little off. The handwriting itself is phenomenal looking. Right? It looks like that could have been written by the same person that wrote the sample notes that Benj Edwards provided. So once again, I don't know Benj Edwards. He seems like a really good guy. He's done some fantastic work in the area of computer history, and I like his work. Fantastic. And this article is a good article. It's worth reading on Ars Technica. Again, I'll link to it so you can go check it out. My father is not around anymore, and I also would love to see notes or papers written by him. That would be delightful. If someone showed up with a parcel in the mail and said, here's a thing that's been sitting in a box somewhere for the last several years. Here's a series of papers written by your father, notes and letters and whatnot. Oh, I'd be delighted. I'd be overjoyed. It'd be a fantastic thing to sit through and enjoy, and it would bring more than just a couple of tears. But here's the thing. Fake notes, fake letters, things that aren't real at all. Well, those things are written and created specifically to deceive, right? So what I'm showing you on the screen right now is a real paper written by Benj Edwards' father. Okay, those are great things to have. And then what I'm showing you next is, let's go back up here to this one where it says, "Guess who's back, Dad." That's not real. Right? The whole purpose of that is that a very complex and very impressive AI system was created and trained specifically to deceive. Right? That was the purpose of these systems. That's the purpose of all of these AI systems, is to deceive, is to mimic. That's the whole point, is how good can it get at mimicking? How good can it get at tricking you? How good can it get at deceiving you, right? It's a lie. That's the point of AI systems, and it's impressive. I am super psyched at the impressiveness of this engineering. When I read through this article and I looked through some of the details of the systems and how it worked, I'm impressed. I am overwhelmingly impressed with the technology here. This is some amazing engineering. And while it can be fun to be able to do this sort of thing, and I can see a purpose that isn't entirely mean and cruel and whatnot, it's still incredibly disturbing, right? Here's the thing. The ghost in the machine is not a literal ghost. This is a very important thing here, right? As much as we get these AI systems engineered and improved and trained, because I mean, come on, look at this "Guess who's back, Dad," compared to the text that we were seeing this time last year in AI systems where it was barely legible. A lot of times it was hilarious because it was just so bad and ridiculous. It was almost bad on the level of the video of Will Smith eating pasta where his mouth gets all distorted and he just shoves giant wads of weird pasta into his mouth. It was that level of bad. Now, with a little bit of tweaking and a little bit of shading and whatnot, and a little bit, a little bit of maybe finger smudges here and there and whatnot, this looks real. That's where we're at this point, right? We're getting to the point of, okay, this has gone from funny mimicry to absolutely real, and now it's disturbing mimicry. And once we've got the point where we can do the handwriting well, we already are at the point where the audio is getting real good. Someone just a couple of days ago sent me an audio file of myself saying things that I never said, right? Because there's thousands and tens of thousands of hours out there of podcasts and videos and whatnot of me talking. And he fed in like an hour or two or something of my podcasts into one of those AI audio generation systems. And he fed it a series of admittedly very humorous things for me to say, and then sent the resulting MP3 to me. And it sounded like me. Like it sounded exactly like me. Even the inflection was pretty good. And that is deeply, deeply disturbing, because the whole point of that is that it's not real. The whole point of that it is deceptive. It is mimicry. And the more real and the more easily acceptable and highly affordable, like this, couple dollars to get started, and then a few pennies, and then boom, you can forge someone's handwriting without even working hard at it. You don't even have to get good at pretending to use the pen to forge their handwriting anymore. No, you can just do it. I mean, in a time when so many people sign things digitally anyway, you can just fake being someone else. It is so easy, so incredibly easy, so incredibly cheap. The barrier to entry is almost nil. And the reality is, it's incredibly easy to find handwriting of people, especially younger people, college students, high school students, and whatnot, who have huge stacks of handwritten paper, of notes, of turned in assignments, of tests and essays and whatnot. So if you wanna mimic the handwriting of a college student, easy. You want to mimic the voice of somebody, easy. You just need a little bit of recordings of them. And even if it's easier for people like me who have, 30 billion hours of audio recordings on the internet that all of you can download and feed into an audio generator system. It's still pretty easy for almost anyone. Someone with a field recorder can, record and clean up a significant amount enough of someone talking to accomplish the goal of mimicking their voice. And just the same, the video and image generation is getting better and better. We're seeing some of these models able to generate images and video that are so good. They're moving almost beyond that uncanny valley, right? You get really good and you get to that uncanny valley where it's like, oh, that looks close, but it's so creepy because it's really close, but it's not quite. These are beginning to move beyond that, where it's like, that could be real. And that's deeply disturbing. So it's incredibly simple to misuse this technology for illegal purposes. But let's put that aside. Let's think more about the ethical side of this. Because right now, in the tech journalism industry, well over 50%, I'd say possibly 60, 70 or more percent of the articles written are written by AI. Many people may not realize that, but that's the case. There are several services out there that specifically tailor to writing articles based on, say, press releases combined with other sample articles, and then you feed in some additional thoughts you'd like to add, and it'll generate an article for you. And some of them have gotten quite sophisticated. Many of the articles out there are like that. So just within the tech industry, generating, if we're seeing over half of the content being put out is generated by AI. And we're at the point where there's no reason entire podcasts can't be spit out based on those AI generated articles. We can now have the AI generated podcasts based on them, because we can have the voice creation systems are just darn near perfect. The handwriting is just about perfect, and the video is pretty much perfected as well. I mean, they're getting there. And at this point, we're either there or within months of the whole pipeline of content that you and I would see and listen to and read on a daily basis being 100% fake. It is incredibly disturbing, and that doesn't even get into the whole concept of deceased people and writing notes, and deceased people where they have audio recording and pictures of them, and now we have video that's newly generated and audio that's newly generated of them, and handwritten notes that are newly generated of them. We're deep into Pet Cemetery territory here. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is disturbing. We are bringing pets and children back to life in creepy ways. This is like one step removed from my brother passed away, so I brought him back to life. He's a zombie now, and his body parts are rotting and falling off, and he just wants to eat my brains and grunt, but I keep him chained up in the shed, and it's just so great to have him back. It's like he's here, right? It's so creepy. It is the plot of either horror movies or horror comedy movies. I mean, it's right next to Shaun of the Dead. And so I find this terribly creepy. In fact, I would go so far as to say that this is bad. Benj Edwards, who wrote this article, took the time to do all this, and he clearly found some joy and happiness in seeing handwritten notes in his father's style. He took joy in that, and I don't want to take that away from him. But I'm going to say this is all real bad. I think the fact that we can do it is bad. The fact that we are seeing it done is bad. I think it's creepy. I think it's kind of Pet Cemetery adjacent. I mean, it's disturbing. It is utterly, utterly disturbing. Once again, the ghost in the machine, the Deus Ex Machina. It's not an actual ghost. It's just not. But it's just creepy. It is there to purposefully deceive. And I think we're going to see a lot. We're going to see a lot more of this, and it's just incredibly creepy. And that this picture, I've left this up on the screen for those of you watching the video version because I found this one the ultimate creepiest. Guess who's back, Dad? It's a horror movie. I mean, we're delving into a horror movie, and over the coming months, we're going to see because all these companies, Microsoft and Google and Amazon and Mozilla and blah, 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 on and on and on. They're all going whole hog, and Apple, whole hog onto the AI side of things. And the whole point of AI is mimicry, is deception, is a twisted, dark, disturbing lie. That's the purpose. So and they're getting better at it. Way better. And kudos to the engineers pulling this off, because this is impressive right here. This is impressive. High fives to the engineers. Now let's find a way to bury this. Let's treat this like ET cartridges for the 2600, and let's just shove this all into a landfill like in Arizona or something like that, because this needs to go away. This is not going in a good direction. I don't want to see more of this. If someone shows up with a bunch of handwritten letters and a video of my deceased father saying some new things that were never real, that's creepy. That's going to freak me the heck out, and I do not want that around. And that's the type of thing that we're going to see increasingly more of. I don't want that. Now, while it's cool technology, I don't know, maybe for movies or something. I don't know. Even then, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I don't want it around. Super duper creepy. There you are. I'm linking to the article. Honestly, I recommend reading it. I profoundly disagree with the general takeaway that the author of this piece has on it, the positive feelings he has for it. Profoundly disagree. However, I think we are all in agreement that the technology is amazing and it should be pushed into a landfill. Thank you to everyone who supports the Lunduke Journal. Thank you for allowing us to be commercial free from corporate sponsors, free from any corporate influence of any kind. And not to dog on Ars Technica, which does some quality work, but oh my gosh, it is so full of ads. It's just nonstop ads, the banner ads and top ads, and hey, there's a thing for Best Buy and just ads. Oh look, oh we can do, oh look, real brewed tea. Honestly, I like real brewed tea. Oh, there's a car I can buy. Oh, here's an autoplay video. Thanks, Ars Technica. Thank you for allowing the Lunduke Journal to stay one of the only places that is completely free of advertisements, completely free of any of that stuff, completely free of corporate influence on the entire tech journalism sphere. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. Go to lunduke.com or lunduke.locals.com to subscribe and help continue to make that possible. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and I just want to say, this was all not AI generated. This is my face. Boink, boink, boink. That's my nose. And this is real me. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I do declare, end broadcast.